great. Nice brakes. Welcome back, I'm Tedward, and I keep getting requests for normal cars. Tedward, drive some normal cars. So I found the most abnormal normal car I could find. Thanks to Autobahn USA in Westboro, Massachusetts. They had this 2020 Volkswagen Arteon sitting on the lot. I said, I gotta drive this thing. I forgot they existed. I'm not gonna lie. I completely forgot this car existed. It's essentially like a Volkswagen A7, but really, I mean, look how long this is. This looks like a limousine. And it's supposed to be kind of an upper scale successor to the Passat CC. But based on the styling, you'd almost look at it and think like, is this a Phaeton successor? Of course not. It's not quite the level of Bentley platform, but my goodness, this is a stunning looking car. And the more I look at it, the more oddball features I find on it. In fact, I genuinely thought that there was damage on the car for a second because I said, oh no, what happened to this fender? The hood actually goes over the fender. And then I did the symmetry check and it was on this side. So we're okay. It's supposed to be that way. This one is in the R-Line trim and it's got the 20-inch wheels with all-wheel drive. It's 4Motion. I think you've got to get the R-Line trim level just because this looks really nice. When you've got a big car and you go cheap on it, it's a lot of space to have cheap stuff. So you've got to do that. But anyway, let's take a look at the storage space because this is like ultra practical. Look at this. There's depth to this. This is great. And you basically get to have a hatchback without being a Golf. I know there's a lot of people who don't like hatchbacks. I love hatchbacks, but this is a good compromise for those who don't want to take the Golf route. And inside, of course, it's a CC successor, so we have frameless windows, which is really cool. We've got tons of room in the back seats. This is very luxurious, but it's relatively Spartan because, again, you're not buying an Audi A8, you are buying a Volkswagen. We should look under the hood, though. It has 268 horsepower. We'll start it up. Nice LCD displays, all kinds of fun caution, engine is running! Take a look under the hood. Typical Volkswagen fashion, that engine is nice and far forward, almost entirely in front of the front axle. This is a proper front engine vehicle, but you know, not an unfamiliar power plant, but reasonable space to work. And it's actually pretty cool the way this hood comes up. Exposes everything. All right, let's get out there. Do a little brake check. Nobody behind us. Ooh, Continental's making a little noise, but doing the job. The cabin feels well insulated. It's a comfortable, quiet place to be, and the steering is nice and light, but the rack is actually pretty fast. So it certainly has that little Volkswagen sporty feel. Volkswagen always wants their cars to have kind of that sporty edge. If you remember their advertising, they're like, shoot the gap. That's Volkswagen's thing. They like low down torque and they like fast communicative steering. See this turning radius. Oh, that's wonderful. Really nice smooth power delivery, and that torque builds wonderfully. Gear shifts, not the most aggressive, but then again, I don't expect this to like slam gears. But let's see how it gets on the highway. These seats feel really supportive, so I'm curious how that's going to be. This is great. Nice brakes. Very easy to drive. And we got to get ahead of this truck. Let's see how this torque is. It's enough to save your life. That's all you need. So yeah, maybe in its segment, it's not going to be the fastest car, but I wouldn't call it slow. But here's where you're probably going to spend most of your time in a car like this, is just cruising on the highway. And if you notice, 8th gear, the revs are super low. We're at 2,000 RPM at 75 miles per hour, so clearly designed for a good highway cruise. And fortunately, even with a somewhat fast steering rack, it's nice and comfortable to cruise on the highway. Sometimes these cars put like super fast steering racks in, and then it makes it uncomfortable to drive in a straight line because every small input like throws the car around. And they've done a good job tuning this to be able to just kind of cruise along with minimal inputs, and I'm not chasing the front end of the car. Inside, it looks like they put premium materials where it counted. So steering wheel, anything I'm touching, right? So the shifter, the steering wheel, these buttons feel really nice to the touch. And then there's the dashboard. Dashboard's a little cheap, but then again, you'd get that in an Audi. Sometimes I get spoiled and I realize, no, that's not a thing. I don't get a stitched leather dashboard in a $37,000 car. But, you know, they've done cool things where they've put like this analog clock in the center dash. Those are things that just make the car feel more upscale. Steering wheel is the right size. Oh yes, and I mean that in diameter and thickness. I'm surprised how much I like this car. Can tell how stiff that suspension is when you go over like a little hop, but it did put the wheel back on the ground. Not frightening. Let's talk sales figures. So I'm a car guy. I love cars, obviously. I forgot this car existed. I remember hearing about it at a press event at Road America when Volkswagen got up and literally talked about their lineup, and I was like, the Arteon, what's that? And then that was it. That was the last. That was like the last I ever heard of the car. They released the car in Europe in 2017. We started getting sales in 2019. They didn't sell that hot though. I think they only sold like 25 or 2,600 in the first year. 2020, maybe like 3,500. So there's not a whole lot of these out there. They somehow never do a great job of selling sort of like upscale or upmarket cars under the Volkswagen brand. And they do a great job, obviously, with Audi and Porsche, but for whatever reason, people just do not want to spend like $40,000 on a Volkswagen. And in addition to that, it's a sedan. I mean, yeah, it's got a hatchback, but for all intents and purposes, it's a sedan. And people want SUVs. They want their Tiguan, they want their Touareg. I think this is awesome. It's like the size of a limo. I think in a few years, or if this car dies out, if this platform, they're like, yeah, we're not going to do this anymore. I think this is going to be really cool in 10 or 15 years when people are like, yeah, I bought an Arteon. This is going to be like not quite as intense as saying you have a Phaeton, but still, I think the style of this car is pretty charming. And Volkswagen fans, I would assume Volkswagen fans really like this car. It shrinks around you too. It's not a small car, but it doesn't feel big. When you look at this car on paper, it almost looks like it was specifically built for China, which it very well may have been, because you've got this long wheelbase with tons of space in the back seat and a big sedan with storage space. That, to me, screams like Chinese German luxury cruiser. And I wish people in the US would appreciate this more, because there's something really cool about not driving a truck, not driving an SUV. This is a nice car. I'd have to spend more time with it to know if this is a positive or a negative, but it does feel small. It shrinks around you, which is, I guess, good from a handling perspective, but it doesn't feel much more substantial than, say, like a Golf or a Jetta. And again, I would need to spend more time with it just to get a better vibe of what that means. Because from a handling perspective, it's nice to have a car that feels tossable and light and easy to move. From a luxury standpoint, that's a bus! That is a bus! From a luxury standpoint, sometimes you want something that feels more like a 7 Series or whatever. And I guess it's not imitating that, so that's good. The last thing you want is like a $35,000 car that's attempting to imitate a 7 Series or an S-Class. It's just never a good thing. It never works. The steering is light, but it's not vague, and I feel very relaxed in the car. This is the kind of thing where, next time my mom is looking for a replacement for, say, her X3, which is, relatively sporty and almost artificially heavy in certain ways when it comes to the steering, she might love this car. This might be the answer for that. I guess my message for this video isn't so much like, is the Arteon any good? It's more like, hey, there's a thing called the Arteon. You should probably drive one. Find out if you like it. Let's see how she accelerates. It's not gonna wow you, but it's all you need. You don't need more than that. Do you need more than that? I don't need more than that. What do the Volkswagen fanboys think about this? Like somebody with like a crazy Golf R, is this their daily driver? Is this what they put the kids in after they're done stancing out their GTIs? This is pretty sweet. Does it make it cooler that like not a whole lot of people bought them too? I feel like it does. So huge thanks to the McGovern Auto Group here at Autobahn USA in Westboro, Massachusetts. Thank you so much for watching, liking, commenting, and subscribing. Thank you to the Patreon supporters who make this content possible. Don't forget to respect the drive and go check out the Arteon. This is kind of an oddball and I really appreciate it. They've got a lot of odd cars in this inventory and I check it monthly just because sometimes I'm shocked at what they brought in and I forgot this car existed. So here I am driving it, happy to have done it. The question can't always be, would I buy one? I mean, I do genuinely like this, but there are, of course, other cars that are, more mechanically capable, let's say, than this. However, this is a very pretty vehicle. And in a world where everything is so homogenized and similar, I mean, look, when I'm on the highway, if me and my buddy Eddie, we'd go out for a drive and at night you'd try to say like, oh, guess what car, the taillights, 300-400 feet ahead. We used to be really good at this game. I'm very bad at this game now. It's very hard because everything looks almost exactly the same. And this car really doesn't look like anything other than, I guess, mildly in shape like an A7. But to be honest, this is unique. This is fun. And I have to applaud Volkswagen for putting this out there and always giving cool sedans a shot. I mean, frankly, I'm probably not going to buy a Buick and I'm probably not going to buy a Kia. I'm probably not going to buy this either, but out of the three, the Kia Stinger is probably like the coolest car out of them. But then again, do I want the Kia? I don't know. I kind of dig this Volkswagen thing.